Hey everyone, and welcome back to This Explainer. Today, we're going to be unpacking a seriously fascinating piece of psychology. We're looking at how tiny, seemingly insignificant improvements can actually engineer extraordinary results over time. If you've ever felt totally crushed by the pressure to just completely reinvent yourself overnight, well, you're in the exact right place. We're going to break down the hidden mechanics of peak performance and show you how to get there without a massive, instantaneous life overhaul. Okay, let's dive right in by challenging your biggest assumption. What if becoming successful didn't require a massive transformation at all? I mean, we're constantly sold this idea that to change your life, you need to wake up at 4 a.m. tomorrow, have a flawless plan, and just upend your entire routine overnight. But what if all you actually needed was to improve by just 1% every day? It sounds way too small to matter, right? But as you'll see, that exact lack of intimidation is precisely why it works so well. Section 1. The Trap of Huge Goals. So, to understand the solution, we kind of need to look at why most of us approach growth the exact wrong way. Here's the reality. We sit down on New Year's Eve or maybe a quiet Sunday night, and we set these overwhelmingly huge goals. We say we're going to drop 20 kilos, become completely financially independent, read 100 books this year, or launch a massively successful business. And we feel incredibly motivated for a few days, right? You get that sudden wave of adrenaline. But then reality hits hard. The goal feels super heavy, the daily progress is basically invisible, and eventually, we just quit. Now, what's really interesting here, and this should completely remove your guilt, by the way, is that the human brain just naturally struggles to stay motivated when rewards are far away. The problem isn't your lack of talent or some missing willpower gene. It's literally just biology. Your brain is hardwired to crave immediate results. It wants the reward right now. But as we know, meaningful success rarely works on that timeline. Which brings us to Section 2, the magic of 1%. This is the incredibly simple but mathematically powerful core of our explainer. Instead of those massive overhauls, imagine just making tiny 1% improvements. We're talking about reading just 2 extra pages of a book, doing exactly 5 more push-ups, saving a tiny bit of money from a paycheck, or learning just one really small new skill. On their own, these actions sound almost entirely too small to matter. But that lack of intimidation, that's the secret ingredient. It completely bypasses our brain's natural resistance. Because, you guys, here is the magic of the math. Just like money grows in a bank account through compound interest, your habits grow through repeated action. A tiny improvement today snowballs into a noticeable improvement next month and an absolutely massive improvement next year. The difference between an average outcome and an exceptional outcome is almost never one giant leap. It's thousands of tiny steps compounding on top of each other. Section 3. The Psychology of Small Steps. Let's look at exactly why these tiny steps are so biologically safe for our brains to process. Just consider the contrast here. Running for 1 straight hour, to a beginner, that feels completely impossible and triggers immense mental resistance. But walking for just 5 minutes? That feels easy. It feels totally manageable. Writing a whole book feels impossible, but writing a single paragraph is entirely doable. When a task feels easy, small actions don't trigger your brain's alarm system. Your brain sees them as safe, meaning you are much more likely to actually start. And honestly, starting is always the hardest part. There is a really profound psychological shift that happens here. You take action first, and then build confidence. Every completed tiny action, even just walking for 5 minutes, sends this powerful message to your brain saying, hey, this is who I am. You don't magically become a confident person first and then decide to take action. It's actually the exact opposite. You take the action first, proving to yourself that you're capable, and that proof builds the confidence. That is fundamentally how human identity changes. Moving on to Section 4, the compounding effect. Let's see how this builds in a real world when we pit 2 different approaches against each other. Imagine 2 people starting at the exact same point today. One commits to improving by just 1% daily. The other decides to stay exactly the same, waiting around for the perfect time to make a massive change. After the first week, there's almost no visible difference between them. After a month, still not much. But give it 1 year. As time passes, the 1% improver pulls drastically ahead. The gap between them becomes absolutely enormous. Over that year, the first person has steadily accumulated a monumental advantage. They've developed new skills, deeper knowledge, ironclad discipline, and real confidence. Meanwhile, the second person is, well, still waiting for the perfect moment to start. What looks like a sudden overnight success from the outside is actually just a mountain of tiny, unnoticed improvements compounding beneath the surface into an undeniable advantage. Section 5. How to apply it. All right, so now that we understand the psychology and the math, let's put this into practice today. The source material gives us a super clear 4-step system. First, shrink your goal until it is ridiculously small. Read one page instead of a whole book. Second, prioritize consistency over intensity. Third, track your progress daily. And finally, be patient. Tracking is the absolute critical bridge that keeps you in the game long enough for those compounding results to actually appear. That second directive is particularly vital. A small habit done every single day will always beat a huge, exhausting effort that you only manage to do once a month. Seriously, never forget this. Doing ordinary things extraordinarily consistently is the true secret engine behind peak performance. Which brings us right to patience. The greatest results are completely invisible at first. You really have to trust that the process is working behind the scenes. Think of it like this. The seeds you plant today truly become the forest you enjoy tomorrow. Remember, you don't need to be 100% better tomorrow. You only need to be 1% better than you were yesterday. Because as these small actions solidify into daily habits, they literally rewrite who you are. As the saying goes, habits become identity, and identity becomes destiny. So I want to end our explainer today by leaving you with this one provocative question. What is one tiny thing you can improve today? Stop waiting for that elusive, massive transformation, Stop waiting for the perfect moment. Pick one ridiculously small 1% improvement, start there today, and just let time do the rest. Thank you so much for joining me to unpack this fascinating source material, and I will see you in the next explainer.